Welcome back. Our next guest tonight is Todd Dekruyter. He is the principal chair of C12 of Greater Indianapolis, an organization for Christian CEOs and executives. Todd, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
C12.
Yeah.
Tell me all about it. What is C12?
So we grow great businesses for a greater purpose. We work with Christian business owners and CEOs that want to have an impact bigger than just the bottom line.
And not just here in Indianapolis, you're kind of a national organization.
Yeah, we actually have about 3,200 members around the country.
Wow.
We were started in 1992 down in Tampa, Florida by a guy named Buck Jacobs, who's as gentle as a Mack truck. He's a delightful man. He's one of those forces of nature to get stuff done. Neat man.
And are those clients truly spread all over the country?
We're really concentrated in Florida, North Carolina, and Texas. We got some pretty big centers, but we've got 140 chairs from Seattle over to New Jersey, all across the country.
Wow. And your title is a unique one, principal chair. What does that mean? What do you do every day?
So I actually chair two groups here in Indianapolis. We have CEOs that meet from 9 to 4 in the morning to afternoon, full day meeting to discuss how we do that great business for a greater purpose.
Wow.
And so I facilitate two of those groups, and then I coach the CEOs outside of that, kind of 60 to 90 minutes once a month. It's a pretty awesome job. Running with these missional business leaders has been blessed. Absolutely fun.
As you dig in with them, what are the challenges? I think we can all name a couple of them right off the bat that are pretty universal, but what are some of the challenges that you're seeing for Christian CEOs and executives in the work world today?
So they're definitely facing all of the normal issues of business, the hiring and firing and the great resignation that we find ourselves in with this tight labor market. How do we find, recruit, the culture of a business, all those pieces, the supply chain stuff that's breaking down, all of the normal aspects of business. And then the unique part of our group is they're trying to do this but have an impact at their supply chain at the same time. We kind of say we're at the mix of three things. Business is excellence. How do we do business even as ministry? So how do we have an impact and then align it with the family? And so all of those, depending on which guy you're talking to or gal you're talking to, shows up differently.
I would think in the for-profit, non-Christian world, if you're running a secular company, that gets especially tricky. How do you manage that? How do the men and women that you work with, how do they juggle that? How do they get those two things to align?
So we kind of talk in two realms. One, we want to have best practices. So part of being peer advice is I don't have to have the answers, which is lovely. We get to connect them with other like-minded people, and so we can talk about best practices of, hey, we did this or we tried this, and it's kind of, we're definitely not prescriptive, but more kind of descriptive. Hey, this is what one guy tried, this gal did it this way, try this. But then also in by light of protocols. So if you're going to make a stand and be distinctively Christian or even purpose-driven, faith-driven, whatever your language is, you need to have some protocols in place. In a world that's pretty litigious, in a world that doesn't or thinks Christianity means you're anti-fill-in-the-blank, you probably need some protocols in place in regards to your operating agreement, in regards to how you hire and fire and onboard in a way that allows you to live out your faith and allows your employees to live out theirs as well.
And that sounds like a very tricky thing to do. Are people able to successfully do it? The world is such a strange place right now. Is it going well for a lot of organizations, or is it really tough sledding these days?
Whenever you have what we call VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, you really need a leader. And so we've had some guys, one of our businesses, Corona almost killed. Like he came in 1 month, was like, all right, guys, I wrote my last checks. I'm out. I don't think we can make it. And the guys go, no, hold on. And we gave them kind of three big things to walk away and do. They were hard, for sure. They required him to be on the ground, boots in the ground, rather than in the clouds again, running the business. But for the guys that have made the changes quickly and have adapted and have leadership and been decisive, again, weighing in insight and wisdom, revelation, all that stuff, they've done extremely well. But it's not without its stressors, right?
Yeah,
which typically shows up in missing a few ball games or gain a few pounds or all that kind of stuff, which is less fun to talk about, but as part of the life of a CEO.
Tell me again, take me through VUCA. I like that.
Yeah, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, which kind of sounds like a great thing we've just lived through the last
Right,
2
I was
years.
just going to say that sounds like every day for every single person.
Yeah.
Like we can all probably relate to at least one of those and probably all four.
And God bless the CEOs, they have all of them. Like it's just with whether it's supply chain breaking down, whether it's the tight labor market, whether it's just the personal stuff that we've done, or this divisive political environment. There's so much that's at stake, and as a CEO or leader, people typically look to them and go, well, what are you doing? How are you doing on that regard? Or, man, my kid's school is doing this. How are you doing with school? So it's, where do they go to get a place to talk is essential, that mental health community, whatever we call it.
Right.
You've got to have a kind of a band of brothers and sisters you're coming alongside, which is where we fill in.
Yeah. Let's talk about Crosswinds Counseling. We offer corporate counseling, which is, I think it's a good service to offer on the face of it, of course, but there's also this retention piece of trying to appeal to your workers, trying to retain them. That seems like a real struggle these days, and employers and leaders, whether they be a CEO or in HR, they've got to come up with more now to offer people to entice them to come work and to stay engaged in work. How important is that corporate counseling piece as you look across the landscape of organizations?
Well, it's funny when you look at millennials, the largest portion of the workforce right now of 36%.
Okay.
And the number 1, 2, and number 3 things they're looking for are not more dollars of benefits. They're looking for the culture, the work pace, the ability to advance, things like counseling, mental health. And it's not ping pong and beer bongs, whatever stupidity you have of a tech company that does silly things.
Right.
Culture is important, whether it turns into ping pongs and kegs and whatever. Put that aside. I think it's just a stiff arm. What they're looking for, really, at the end of the day, is a boss, a manager who loves and cares, can listen and empathetically. And certain bosses don't have that wiring, so it's great to have something more like a counselor, like a chaplain, to come alongside, have the confidentiality piece that often bosses don't get as well. So having mental health provided via counselor, via chaplain, whatever, a pastor, it's essential, especially living through the last 2 years like we have.
Right. People don't leave organizations, they leave leaders or leave managers. That really is true, isn't it?
100%. You get excited about the idea of what's going on, you get excited about the organization, the vision, the mission, what we're trying to accomplish, which is the big picture. But when the boots hit the ground, it's the person leading you. And if they're less than beneficial, toxic, distracted, whatever it is, they usually leave for the manager.
Todd, thanks so much for all you're doing in Indianapolis and beyond. And thanks for being here on Restoring Hope.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. We'll be right back.